Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting Daily December. This is Daily December, day 2015, day 20, because I'm a day behind right now. Today, I want to talk about something slightly controversial in an intellectual way. For those of you that haven't been paying attention to American politics for whatever reason, right now, in my personal opinion, I don't actually see a candidate that I would want to vote for a number of reasons. And if you talk to people, they will all tell you different things depending on which side of the political spectrum they fall on. Um, the liberals will talk about how all of the Republican candidates are all bigoted and horrible, disgusting people that all they ever do is lie. If you talk to conservatives, they will tell you how all the liberals are tree huggers that are only interested in, let's see, one of them is a massive liar. One of them is in the pockets of the unions and just stuff like that. Like, everybody has their own opinion on them. 99% of the opinions are not based on fact. And so the question I would like to present, if we go back in history to how American voting worked, originally, when the country was first founded, the only people that were allowed to vote were male landowners. Um, there were a lot of reasons behind this. And a lot of the reasons behind this were never actually stated outright. But one of the things that was stated was the idea behind that was they wanted people that actually had a stake in the country itself to vote, and that the male landowners themselves were intelligent enough to make good decisions. Whether or not you think that is true, and if we look at history in general, and just the fact that there are just an incredibly large amount of intelligent women that were completely uh, removed from making decisions about how this country was run for years and years and years and years. Um, I do think the idea of only people with the mental capacity to understand the gravity of the decisions and the responsibility to be informed should have the ability to vote is an interesting idea. One of the most disparaging aspects of this country is the fact that while everybody in the country has the ability to vote as long as you're a U.S. citizen, um, most of us don't. In most elections, you can have turnout rates anywhere from like the low teens all the way up to like the big voter turnouts are for presidential elections, and they barely hit. I think it's like 40 or 50%. So over, around like half of the country doesn't vote. Um, of the people that do vote, I see on a regular basis tons of people coming up with really, really bad excuses as to why they're voting the way that they do. We see it all the time in political messages and stuff like that, where they talk about. I mean, smear campaigns are a perfect example of how nobody actually cares who's going to do the best job for the country. All they care about is a person that agrees with them the most, whether or not those ideas are good, bad, or otherwise. So the question I would like to propose is, should people be licensed to vote? Should you have to pass some sort of a test or something like that in order to be able to vote? Now, in this country, voting is considered a right, and it's something that's not allowed to be taken away. Um, Basically, because the original founding of this country and the Constitution and everything was based on the idea that this is going to be a government for the people, by the people, and of the people. Um, they didn't want what happened in England, which caused them to leave, which was half of the people that had political power were from a select elite group of landowners. that had titles. That's the House of Lords. Um, and there was this vast disconnect. All the colonists over here had no say in anything that happened in the government over there because there was no representation over here. And they didn't like that idea. They felt that if you were to be governed by someone, you should have a representative there that speaks on your behalf. So that was the idea of government. Why voting is a right, not a privilege. However, and I think we've seen this across the board, corruption in our political. Let me try this one more time. Corruption in our political system is rampant. It's very difficult to go more than a month without seeing some form of a senator or a governor or some elected official getting caught doing something that they shouldn't be, whether it's embezzlement, whether it's signing bills that they're not supposed to, whether it's having conflicts of interest that make them vote in certain ways. Like this just happens every single day. And a lot of these people that do things that are corrupt keep getting reelected into office simply because the large portion of the people that vote actually don't know what it is that they're voting for, and they will vote on party lines or they will vote based on the buzzwords that are used as opposed to actually researching the topic. Researching the topic itself has become almost impossible. News outlets in general will focus entirely on what they think will sell the most papers or will get them the most clicks. They will intentionally post misleading information, sometimes outright false information, simply because it's a better story. It's unbelievably difficult to find out what the actual issues are during a campaign and finding out what a particular candidate is actually going to do. So theoretically, and again, this is all in theory, this is all just designed to be something that we discuss, forcing people to pass some sort of test or kind of test them to the point where they can prove, which I don't know how we would do this, but again, we're going into magical theory realm, prove that they would be an intelligent voter as opposed to someone that just casts their vote for arbitrary reasons that don't actually help the country as a whole, I think would be a fascinating topic to discuss. Now, the first thing that's always going to be brought up is the idea. For those of you that don't know, standardized testing in general is unbelievably common across the entire country, and I believe around the world, standardized testing is a very common thing. And at least in this country, they found that standardized testing has a bias built into it. That I don't actually understand the numbers behind it, so I don't know how much of this is true and how much of this is statistics being used to further a specific agenda, which happens all the time. But one of the things that they found is the people that do best on standardized testing are white males because they are written by white males. And so technically, if you are from any sort of a minority or you are female, you are going to do, from a statistical average, you're going to do more poorly on standardized testing than your white male counterparts. It has nothing to do with intelligence or ability or anything like that. It has everything to do with just apparently how the questions are worded and things like that tend to make more sense to a white male. Again, I don't understand the quote-unquote science behind it because it's statistics. Statistics is the only form of math and science that can be used to lie with fact. So yeah, I have no idea how accurate this is, but it is a very common thing that is brought up often when talking about standardized testing. So if we were to use a standardized testing system for something like this, the first argument that would be brought up is like, well, that would be discriminating against insert minority here. Which again, from a theoretical perspective, is a valid argument. If we were to create something like this that prevents stupid people from voting, we would have to create something that that would be unbiased, that would be equally effective for testing anyone from any racial minority, well, any race, any gender, any biological sex, any sexual orientation, like anything that separates us, we would have to define. We would have to find a test that doesn't factor into. Which again, I don't know if that's even possible. Simply because, again, that's not a field of study that I'm familiar with well enough to be able to even predict how that affects standardized testing and stuff like that. Like, again, it's something that doesn't make any sense to me. However, in the realm of magical theory, let's pretend. Let's say we were able to create a test that was completely unbiased. It didn't matter who you are. You had the exact same chance. If you were intelligent enough to make good choices and make informed choices in your voting, do you guys think that would be a positive step? Or do you think that having the stupid people in this country cast votes is an important aspect of the country running the way that it should? The stupid people live here. The stupid people make up a portion of our citizenry. They have a rights and a responsibility to vote stupid, so that the people running the country reflect the people living in the country. What do you guys think? Like I said, it's a weird concept, and in practical application, I don't think it's possible for it to ever happen. But in the realm of fantasy, theory, where everything works the way that you want it to, I think it's an interesting idea. My personal opinion on it is I think there's far too many uninformed voters out there, and I think there are a lot of people in political office right now that if only informed voters were voting for them, would not have their office. I think that's one of the biggest issues with our government right now is we keep electing people that really don't need to be there. So if, and again I stress if, we could come up with a test that was completely unbiased, I would technically be in favor of it. I think only allowing those that are informed to actually vote on the issues would make the country run better, because we would have the people that actually care enough to learn how the country is running and actually understand how the country is supposed to run. That's part of being informed. Would benefit our country immensely. But again, there's a chance that could never happen simply because of the fact that we're human beings and we're flawed in general. So yes, in the comments below, let me know if we could come up with an unbiased testing system. Do you think would you support testing in order to be given the right to vote? And if you think there should be a caveat in that, put that in the comments as well. I will point out if it starts turning into like arguments and name calling and stuff like that, where nothing really valuable is being said, people are just attacking other people, I'll start deleting comments. But I think this is an interesting idea. So yes, please, in the comments below, let me know that. I will try and release another video probably much later tonight, simply because I'm a day behind now, because this past weekend was really, really rough. I think it'll probably just be an update on how things are going with me, because I have my EMDR therapy tomorrow, which is still terrifying me. All right, so that's all for me today. I will see you guys later tonight for another day of December. All right, bye-bye.